As this item, The Tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, is transferred from a print to a digital existence, it goes through several fundamental changes. Not only is the format of the story itself changed, but the way it is interpreted is changed as well. The loss of physicality brings great change to the way the book is viewed as a historical work and the level of accessibility it possesses. Additionally, much of the text's original meaning and intentions are also lost in translation when it changes from print to a digital form. I will discuss how the transformation between print and digital editions differ from each other, as well as other publications of this work. First, I will give a background of the unique aspects of this particular copy of The Tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, and speculate on the importance of these distinctions. The cover of the book was a plain blue with no writing or distinctions on it. This plain cover tells us that the book was not custom bound for aesthetic purpose, as was common practice in the 1700s. In contrast to the cover, the spine of the book was frayed and torn. The book also had very worn pages, many of which had small tears and some stray markings. This wear and tear of the book, along with its plain cover, suggests that it was used extensively for reading and not simply as a shelf decoration. Additionally, the book contained many unique printing aspects that are no longer found in today's publications. For example, the S character appears elongated and can easily be mistaken for a letter F. In addition, the book contains catchwords at the bottom of each page telling the reader what the next successive word in the passage will be. The end of the book gives a few pages that list other works being published at the time and seems to offer these works as suggestions to the reader on what to read next. All of these aspects are unique to the copy of Hamlet that I was able to observe in the Wilson Library and are lost as the book goes from print to the digital realm. One of the major things lost in the change to a digital existence is the unique story that the individual book can tell. Each physical book, especially older ones, can offer a reader its own personal story in addition to the one printed inside. From observing the physical aspects of the book, like its covers, pages, and tears, I could learn many things about how the book was possibly used, as well as how often it was used. I knew from the book's physical form that it was likely read often and was different than many books at the time because of its plain, uncustomized cover. These are aspects that you lose in a digital version of a book, where everyone has the same exact digital version with no differences or imperfections. Digital versions of books lose out on the individuality that print books possess. Going along with the individual stories that each print book can possess, each book can also give the reader a historical glimpse that they would not otherwise be allowed. When holding an old book such as this copy of Hamlet, the reader can gain an appreciation for the age of the work they are reading. When I looked through this copy, I felt as if I were holding something fragile and of great importance. It was easier to physically see the significance that the work carried by seeing the age and wear that came along with the physical copy. The clear age that the text had allows the readers to better place it in a historical context, rather than the digital text looking the same no matter the age of the work. Each book can be a personal artifact that reveals information about its own use and about the people who used it. These artifacts can hold a personal and a historical relationship that a digital book simply cannot muster. They carry a relationship with the place and time they are from that can create a personal relationship with the physical book. For example, I still have a particular book from the 3rd grade that I read over the course of a month or two due to its length. I remember it has a bent front cover and the spine is fracturing because I read it so often and frequently tried to tightly fit it in my book bag. Anytime I see this book, I'm reminded of the 3rd grade, my elementary school, and my teacher, Mrs. Jackson. I remember the pride I felt upon completing it for the first time because it was the longest book I had read at that time, and the fascination I had with the story. The book contains these personal childhood memories for me, so it has a sentimental value as a physical object, beyond the story it contains. The way that a book was published can also give one a look into the historical context it was printed in. Specific styles and printing practices show the reader how things were done and looked at in a prior age of printing, and provide another aspect of the book to be studied and considered other than its contents. The physical print version of Hamlet also contains unique printing practices that set it apart from any digital version of the work. For instance, the elongated S characters are no longer as such in the digital version of the text, and they appear more as a normal S rather than resembling an F like in the original print. This change makes the experience of reading the book stylistically different between the two mediums. With changes such as this present in the new digital version of the text, the reader is now seeing the text in an entirely different way than the original version of it. In addition, things like catchwords present at the bottom of each page are things that will be omitted from any digital translation. As inconsequential as some of these things may seem, it still changes the way we view the work in ways we might not even consider. This lessens the uniqueness of the book by taking away some of the interesting and dated choices present in the printed version that you can no longer find in modern books. One final aspect of a print book that cannot be replicated by a digital edition is its physicality. A printed book can be seen as a piece of art for both its content and its physical form. As I mentioned previously, in the 1700s, books were often given custom covers to replace their original binding to enhance their appearance and to give them a level of customization. Many books feature alluring cover artwork and illustrations to catch the reader's eye, and some even have engravings and special textures to enhance the feel of the book. This supports the fact that people care for their books for more than their content and also enjoy them for their physical beauty. Many people have a certain romanticism regarding print books that is exclusive to the physical form. Things like the feeling of turning the pages, the texture of the cover, and even the smell of the book are things that many people thoroughly enjoy about their books and would not wish to part with. There are also those people who prefer the physicality of ownership rather than the ebook format where you are paying for the right to access data. This is similar to video games in this aspect, since many video games are being sold as digital downloads rather than on discs. I'm still of the group that prefers to have my own physical copy of the game and have the case and the instruction booklet along with the accompanying artwork in my possession. People also feel this way about books and value the physical ownership of the object along with having the content at their disposal. Another reason for people's appreciation of the physicality of books is the prospect of collecting. Again, I can draw a parallel with video games, as I would much rather have my stack of game cases to show the games I possess instead of simply having them downloaded on my console. Collectors of books would much rather have a bookshelf full of unique copies of their favorite books rather than having their collection in a digital form where it exists only as a list of titles on a screen. On the other hand, some people may lack the space for such a collection and would prefer having one that takes no physical space. The physical nature of books allows for an appreciation of them beyond their content that is lost when they are transferred to a digital form, where you can no longer see the artwork, feel the pages, or smell the print. Something that is gained from the translation from print to digital is accessibility. When a text is put into a digital form, it is available to anyone who can reach the book online. This opens up the audience of potential readers and includes far more people than print volumes can. This greater accessibility gives readers a huge library of text at their fingertips, when in the past they could only read the physical copies of books they were able to procure. Particularly with rare books such as this one, the shift to digital exposes the text to an audience that would likely be unable to experience it otherwise. Finally, there's the idea that a digital work loses some of its original integrity from the print version. This is not unique to changing from print to digital, as print versions published at different times often contain many differences between them as well. For example, the 1703 version of the tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, is likely very different than any versions published in the 1600s, and that version would differ even more from the original Hamlet, how Shakespeare intended it to be. Aforementioned differences in text style and format can change how the reader experiences the text. The more times the text changes formats, the more likely it is to lose part of the original. Sometimes the text itself is changed vastly and gives completely different meaning than the original intended. I noticed while doing my own encoding that I had unintentionally made some changes to the text format, and it made me realize how difficult it is to stay completely true to one's source material. While this is not a change unique to the shift from print to digital, it is certainly one that can take place and further influence change in how the reader experiences and interprets the text. The transference of this item from print to digital brings about many changes. The book loses aspects like its personal story and connection to history, its unique formatting, and its physicality. It gains far greater accessibility for more people, becoming available to a larger audience. While many of these changes are both positive and negative, it is my belief that books, particularly older, rarer books like this one, are far more valuable in their physical form where they retain their individuality and connection to the outside world and history.